What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for watching. My name is Savannah, and if you're new here, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're not new here, you'll know that Planet Zoo is one of the main games that we like to play here on the channel. And if you're anything like me, I love to build, I love to create, but sometimes I struggle hard with inspiration. I'm fortunate enough to live somewhere where inspiration is not too far away, so that's exactly what this video is about today. This is a zoo vlog, as I'm sure you've seen by the title and the thumbnail, and this footage is actually from a while ago from the San Diego Zoo. So like I said, I am fortunate enough to live in San Diego and be able to go down to the zoo pretty frequently. So this footage was actually taken, gosh, now I think like a month ago it probably was, shortly after they reopened for the second time. I am an annual pass holder, so I enjoy going to the zoo all the time. And it was really, really nice to, one, get outside because things have been closed down for quite a while, but two, go to an actual zoo and get lots of inspiration. So I really wanted to put this together for you guys so that you guys could also get some inspiration from the things that I got to see at the San Diego Zoo. I will say that this vlog doesn't cover the entire zoo. My GoPro died, so I only got to record about an hour worth of footage and condensed it down into about the 20-minute video that you see here. Next time I'll be more prepared. I'll bring my second battery and make sure that my GoPro is fully charged before I head out on an expedition like so. Again, so apologies for that, but I do feel like I got some pretty good stuff for you guys. So for those of you that have never been to the San Diego Zoo, what we've seen thus far is when you come through the entrance, and in fact, the little area that you saw me walk through at the beginning is actually the exit, but because of COVID and the way that they're kind of restructuring things, they're having us enter through the exit for some reason. I think there's just a little bit more space, I'm not quite sure. But we entered through the exit, and the first thing that we got to see were the flamingos, because they're right at the front of the park, nice and noisy, nice and bright, and so they're the first thing that we always look at because they're kind of right there in front of us. And you probably noticed the little Planet Zoo sign. There's some of those signs sprinkled throughout the zoo. The greater flamingo one is the only one that I was able to find while I was there this last time, but I do know that there's a few other ones as well. So now that we've come into the zoo, we've moved to the right and we're headed over to the Australia section. I wanted to stop real quick and take a look at these guys and try to show you guys more than just the animals, because this being kind of an inspiration video, really trying to pick up on, exhibit design, signage surrounding foliage, the way the paths are. So really trying to focus on some of that extra stuff. So you'll notice there was a big aviary. I so wish we had netting or even like modular chain link fence pieces or something that we could make better aviaries out of. But then moving over in here, you'll see the Tasmanian devil. They were all in their houses hiding at this point, and I'll move over there real quick, but just wanted to give you an overview of the enclosure itself to kind of get an idea of how it was made. But there you go, you can see the little guy in his little house, in his little den. They have these windows here so you can peek in on them, and he didn't do too much. He was just kind of hanging out there. Very, very cute. But then moving to the other side, this would be an additional Tasmanian devil habitat that they could go outside. Like I said, they just weren't out. And then we move into the Australia section. So that's where these like yellow buildings with the red awnings, it's actually like a little food court area. I've eaten there quite a bit, and so it is very good. And then we move on to the little baby giraffe. This little guy was so much fun to watch, and unfortunately that kind of like sprint that you saw him do at the very beginning where he kind of runs a lap was like the only one that I caught on camera, but he was kind of running around like a little madman while we were out there. It was very, very cute. But you can see they're out in these big open enclosures. There is a moat in between us, and it is fairly a good sized moat there to separate us from the giraffe, but where you stand you kind of can't tell how far away you are. It does a really good job at keeping the animals really up close and personal. This right here on the other side would be flipping around and looking at the habitat that's right directly across from the giraffe. That was a rhino habitat, but the rhinos weren't out. Moving on to the zebra and the donkey. I do believe these two are education animals for the zoo. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure these guys are used in some of their tours and some of their educational programs because they're fairly tame and they live together. Unfortunately, I saw the zebra from walking across to the exhibit, but by the time I turned the camera on and actually got over here, it had gone back behind the backstage area, so I wasn't able to catch it. I totally forget what kind of bird this is, but just wanted to capture a little bit of footage of kind of a side aviary habitat. Same thing with this one. This is a kangaroo, and it's just one of those habitats that's just kind of not off the beaten path, but it's just kind of like off the side of the main pathway there. There's not too much like separating it from where you're walking. Same thing over here. You can see they do have some things roped off where we're not allowed to go over there right now because it would cause people to get too close together, but they have smaller animals like this little fennec fox. And now that I'm looking at the footage, I could see it in real life, but I couldn't see it in the footage. So let me know if you guys do spot it. I think it's in that little den. But yeah, just some of these little habitats kind of sprinkled throughout as we're walking between different bigger habitats like this one. So we come to the cheetah here. So this is a big cheetah run. This cheetah was out all by themselves. Some of the cheetahs at the zoo are raised with dog companions. This one is just a single one. And I don't know if this one's Maggie or another one of their cheetahs. This one right here was pretty active, running back and forth. You can see she or he. Very, very cute. I love looking at the cheetahs and watching them kind of run around, but he or she was very, very active, so I got some very good footage of them getting up nice and close. So that was really, really cool to see. He or she did kind of jump up and down off the rocks, but at that point I was kind of already over at this angle, so I wasn't able to catch that very well. So that was kind of a bummer. But then moving on, this is one of, it's not the newest, but it's one of the newer exhibits. So this is kind of the koala section, and this is really, really cool, the way that they've laid out this exhibit. So you can kind of see here in the middle, there's these, fake trees. The koalas are kind of sitting, hanging out under those shade structures, but there are a whole bunch of individual enclosures. So each of these little poles with the shade, some of them have more than one, but most oftentimes there's just one in each. And there's different koalas in each of these exhibits. Just kind of hanging out and, doing their thing. Koalas sleep, I think, like 23 hours a day or something like that. So not very active animals. Inside that building used to be where you could see them preparing the food, and they even had a little nursery in there, but I think they've since changed it over to like an education building. So they've blacked out the windows. There's curtains so you can't see. But there you go. You can see one of the little koala guys hanging out, and I think these ones are all the females in here. Yeah, say good day to the girls. So all these guys are in one big habitat. And I didn't see too many of them, but they do have wallabies running around on the bottom of the enclosures as well. You saw the little sign just a little bit ago, but I wasn't able to catch too many of them. So I don't know if they just weren't on exhibit or what the case was. We were there right when they opened in the morning. It's my absolute favorite time to go because little animals like these guys, which I completely forget what they are. So if you do know, just let me know what they are down in the comments below. But going very early in the morning, everybody's kind of just waking up. Some of them have gotten their food, so they're generally more active, and then the evening time is the same. I just like to go bright and shiny early in the morning so that the weather is nice. It was kind of overcast on the day that I went. I don't know if you can tell. There's a bit of blue skies. I look at this aviary there, but it was a bit overcast, a bit cold. So I was walking around in long pants and a sweatshirt. I say cold for San Diego. I think it was like 70 or something like that. Cold for me. 70 degrees Fahrenheit I consider cold. But then I was super excited to be able to see the serval. So this little guy or girl, I forget which one is here on exhibit, is generally hiding, but they had just put out a little food enrichment thing for him or her. So they were back there kind of gnawing at it, pulling at it, and you can see here in just a minute, yeah, I go around to the back, and this is not an official viewing area. This is kind of just like peeking through. I actually stuck my little GoPro like through the fence to film this without the obstruction of the fence, but you can see they're kind of pulling at their enrichment thing. They look over so you get to see their little face. It's not the best view, you. But at least we got to see what they were doing, because at first I wasn't sure if they were just like digging or what they were doing behind the log. But when we went behind, we actually did see that the keepers had put out like a meat enrichment thing. And then we moved to the meerkats. How many of you guys would love to have meerkats in Planet Zoo? It better be all of you. It better be 110% of you, because meerkats are something that absolutely are a must-have. I so wish that we had them. I so wish we had a lot of those smaller animals like meerkats or beavers or fennec foxes. These guys are so much fun to watch, and we actually stood here for quite a while watching them. We just moved over to the other part of the habitat, which is a bit bigger, and so it was a little bit difficult to film them. As you can see, they have a lot of this roped off, so we weren't able to get super close. But overall, really simple, very easy habitat. This one actually is very inspiring to me, and thinking about putting something together like this for one of my zoo projects. I just kind of want to hold out until we get meerkats. I have hope. I have high hope that I hope we'll get meerkats in the near future. But there you go, looking at the overall map, we are here. So we have continued right around the very right-hand perimeter of the park. We're headed towards Elephant Odyssey and the Africa section. We kind of skipped Africa Rocks. I did do a vlog already, and we do go through that part. I didn't do a voiceover for that one, so it's just kind of cinematics. But as we're walking through here, this is going towards Elephant Odyssey, so just some signage. And then these guys right here, I think these are the vultures. It probably just said on that sign there, but I missed it. But they're out here in this huge, like, natural looking habitat, and it's just so awesome to see the enclosures at the zoo. Like, it almost looks like they're just kind of free because the wiring is so thin. And then you move on to these guys. These guys are so funny looking. They do bring these guys out for like feeding interactions and stuff like that for guests to be able to interact with them. They just obviously aren't doing any of that kind of stuff right now because of the COVID restrictions, which is a huge bummer because, you know, I love going to the zoo and doing some of those little interactions. Like, I've gotten to feed the giraffe before, and it's just a whole lot of fun to get kind of up close and personal to the animals. I was bummed the camels weren't out. So that's what this habitat is. You can see that it's kind of a classic, like, it slopes down towards you so that it really looks like the animals are up on your eye level. You can see them real well. Exhibits are nice and open. You can see that a whole view is basically unobstructed by any sort of fencing. Even the elephant habitat here, it's obviously surrounded by this hot wire fencing here, but very open. And you can see that the elephant enclosure is fairly plain, other than some of the big concrete structures in the center, which are also super inspiring. It makes me want to build something like that for one of my projects in Planet Zoo. But because elephants are destructive, they're so destructive, so you really can't have anything in their enclosures. They'll push it over, they'll scratch up against it, all that kind of stuff. So relatively plain enclosure, but that little girl was just sitting there. I say little girl, she's fairly old, I believe. I believe all the elephants at the zoo are fairly old. But she was just kind of hanging out, eating some hay they had. And then you kind of go through this little tunnel here with a screen you can sit and watch. I've never honestly watched that little video, so I couldn't really tell you what it's about. I think they switch it out. But then continuing with Elephant Odyssey, so the elephant enclosures are really cool. I think there's 3 or 4 different pens that they can put each elephant into and kind of move them around like musical elephants without them actually interacting with each other, with them all being technically separated. And then we move on to this like care center for the elephants. So this is where some of the keepers will do like cleaning and grooming demonstrations where they'll give the elephants their pedicures, do their vet checks, things like that. And a keeper will come out and kind of talk to you about it and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And then just more of their enclosure. I mean, it's massive. It takes you 5 or so minutes to like walk through if you're just walking straight, and of course with stopping it takes a little bit longer than that, but it stretches a good length of this right side of the park. This section is one of the newer sections of the zoo, so obviously just really well done. And then we're coming up on my favorite part. Not yet, we're gonna stop at this enclosure first because I think this one is a really pretty enclosure with the water at the bottom. They used to have capybara in here, and then I just noticed while we were there, this is is the other side of the tapir habitat. So you saw the tapir sleeping. That part where the water is where the tapirs can go down and swim and get a drink. But like I said, it used to be capybaras, now it's tapirs. But now we're at my favorite part. Look at that guy. Oh, he's so handsome, so beautiful. If you guys are unfamiliar, my favorite animal is the African lion. Absolutely adore these guys, and part of why my camera died is because I filmed these guys for so long, and obviously I cut out just the best parts, but we stood here and watched these guys for a good amount of time. I think they were just getting ready to either be fed or let in, because they kept pacing around the little doors where they could be let into the backstage area. But yeah, just magnificent animals, so pretty. And the male kept doing like a yawn up against the glass, and those people wouldn't move. I needed them to move so that I could go film that, but they wouldn't move. So unfortunately I was not able to get him yawning, and then he stopped by time I was able to get over there. But yeah, I absolutely love the lions. This bridge is really cool as well. This kind of connects the two sides of the zoo, because there is kind of a canyon in the middle of the zoo, which is what we're looking down on now. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of like an overview, kind of backstage, I guess, of the tops of some restaurants, tops of some enclosures, and just look at how green it is, you know? Looking at this, it's surprising to me that it is San Diego, because it looks so tropical and so lush. And then we move on, and I totally forget what habitat we're looking at now. I think it's the backside of like the orangutan habitat or some other primate. I didn't see anybody in there, but the waterfall was cool, so I thought I would include that. And then moving on to our mountain lion. These guys are very rarely ever out when I'm here. They're down in this little cave area, and there's actually two of them in there, or at least there was two of them last time, but kind of curled up, taking a nap, and didn't come out to say hi, so that was a bit of a bummer, but really well designed habitat. These guys I always think are funny. I forget what they're called, but look, when they get up, watch when it walks away, they look like they have this little like skirt on their butt. Like they have this little fur, like look at that. Wearing like a little skirt or like a dress that's too short with their like itty bitty legs poking out. Silly little animals. That enclosure used to be giant anteaters, but then now they've switched over to those guys. And you can see now we have made our way all the way around the right of the park and kind of headed up towards the very back of the park, because the polar bears are on the very opposite edge. We have to go down this massive hill in order to get to the polar bear exhibit. So I always walk the zoo this way, because then you have to walk down that hill and not up it. I don't like walking up it, so we always do the zoo like in this direction, so that we don't have to walk up that hill. But on that hill are all these kind of hoofstock mammal animals. So just some basic animals that kind of fill in these little sections, some deer species, some gazelle species, stuff like that. So sorry, I don't remember the exact name of some of the different species that we did see, but these guys were all just kind of relaxing, hanging out for the day. They weren't doing too much, but that's kind of what these guys do, is graze, lay down, hang out. But such big open, like I said, open, unobstructed views of these animals. That's why I am so fortunate to live so close to the San Diego Zoo and get to go here for such good inspiration, because they're definitely the benchmark, I guess, or one of the benchmarks for nice habitats. But then we finally get to our polar bears. So this guy was doing a workout here, kept pushing himself backwards off of the rocks, kind of swimming backwards, then swimming back to the shore, then jumping, pushing himself back off. You can see him do his little squat and then like push himself off again. He was doing that over and over again. I was fortunate. We watched him for quite a while, but I waited until everybody got out of the way of the glass so that I could get this shot for you guys without anybody in the front of it. but really nice underwater viewing area. There are hooks in the bottom of that pool that they actually hook different enrichment items onto so that the polar bears have to either swim and get them or spend some time pulling them out of the water. So I thought that was pretty cool. There are 3 polar bears in this exhibit. At least the morning that I went, there was 3 of them. This guy was kind of hanging out on top, and there was another one over to the right hanging out, just taking a snooze, while the third one was doing his squat workout. He was the motivated polar bear of the group. But nice little shades, and again, just like a natural habitat, lots and lots of water. Basically the whole viewing area is got water in the front of it. And then the reindeer, or the caribou, I always kind of forget about these guys, but they're on kind of like a steep slope right next to the polar bears. And I always kind of forget about them, but they're cool to look at too. Unfortunately, we're coming to the very end. Like I said, my GoPro did die, and so I wasn't able to get more footage. But let me know if you did like this. I am more than happy to go back and get more footage for you guys in the future. You can let me know that you liked it by leaving a like and commenting down below, and subscribing, of course, if you haven't already. But thank you guys for joining me, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye!